Hey listeners, this is Amanda. Today on Burning Butterflies, Melissa, Brandi, and I sit down and we discuss the absolute chaos that was our very first VBS we ever served, all three of us together, Agency D3. This VBS became one of those milestone markers for us as we timelined this podcast, and you will see why, because the chaos was stuff of legend.
Faith can feel like hearts and butterflies until someone lights a match and burns it all to the ground. Welcome to the Burning Butterflies podcast.
The sad thing is that there's abuse of every kind within the church, but the spiritual abuse is the stuff that just
What's a place there shouldn't be abuse? Like, there just shouldn't be abuse in a place that claims Jesus.
Well, it ruins your soul. If you're new here, we suggest listening to our prologue episode first. This is the story of two women's journey through spiritual abuse and escaping from toxic church culture while finding hope in Christ.
Sometimes it's just the facts, and if you get offended by it, that's a you issue. And if we can't be mature enough to have these conversations, even if some of the topics are difficult, then shame on us.
All right, so, Melissa, when was the first time you remember meeting Brandi?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the VBS that we're going to be talking about, like, I was in charge of like the morning children's worship. So, my job was done as soon as it was like worship, bam, done. And so I went around and I was doing what I do best, which is like, just being a little social butterfly, seeing what's going on, interrupting everybody's stuff. And I don't know what day it was, but it was like there was so much going on, and like for me to even pay attention to all of it was probably a little insane. But I'm just running around talking to everybody, and there's like this lady that I don't know involved in preschool, and I remember like I came out of the church sanctuary like one time, and I remember being like, oh, I don't know that lady, and like preschool's all going on, and everything's like totally fine. And then at some point throughout the week or that day or whatever, I was like, this lady's in charge of the preschool. Like, and I was like there was another lady in charge. Like, I know all the people like in charge, and all of a sudden I was like, well, this lady's running it. So it was like, and I know there were like murmurings of like who this person was. So like there was nothing that was like in my mind. I wasn't like red flags and stranger danger. It was just like, oh, this is interesting, and this is what's going on. And like that's the first time that she showed up was in my world, was like at this VBS, and I had no idea who she was, but she was like in charge.
Mine is very similar. I was actually told by the person who was leading VBS that Brandi and then this other mom were friends, and they didn't go to our church, but they wanted to come and help at VBS because they had registered their kids for VBS. And that Brandi had been a teacher in the past, so she was going to help the woman doing like the preschool side of VBS. She was going to help her. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. And then as time went on, like I came to find out like, Brandi, you didn't even know this lady. Like you met at VBS.
No. We met that morning.
So we're going to talk about this VBS here in just a minute. But Brandi, you come as you are.
Well, so we just had moved, and I think at this point we had moved 7 or 8 times.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew how because like before I had kids, I'd have a job. So then that you like just had like people you interact with and whatever. So once I had the kids, I had to figure out like how to make friends and whatever. And so the easiest way to do it is moms groups and churches. And plus, I was also, once I had Johnny, I had this obsession that I had to become good because I was always bad. So I had to become good. And to be good, you have to go to church, you have to serve, and you have to be all in, or you are not good. Because I am black and white thinking. There's no middle. So we buy our house by the skin of our teeth. And the lady who is in charge, or she's the director of children's ministry, I didn't know at the time, but her husband sold us our house. And so I asked him, because at this point I have gone to many churches. Oh, you didn't know that, Melissa?
I didn't know. Oh my goodness. That just like connected. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
So we moved in the middle of the night, like we're escaping Oregon.
Oh, wow.
So I had a very bad taste in my mouth. So when I get to Come As You Are, and the love bombing is just what I need. I'm accepted. He's working in the oil field, and everyone is fine with that. He is a hard-working man providing. He does not need to come to church. It's fine. I think that everybody who is good goes to church, and only people that are partying and doing drugs don't go to church. But the rest of the world goes to church. That's why they have jobs. That's why their husbands are not doing drugs and drinking, because they go to church. So this man is selling us the house, and as we're like saying we're going to buy it, whatever, I say to him, oh, because he's like saying, oh yeah, we have this, because we bought the same house they had in a different neighborhood.
Yeah.
The same model.
So this is in the time frame we have discussed, like in 2013, we break ground, like the town we live in breaks ground on over 300 new homes in 1 year. And
we buy the last one they are trying to get rid of. That is also why we got the house.
Yeah. And so there's all of these little subdivision neighborhoods going up in our town, all at the same time. And so the house in the neighborhood that you buy is the same model by the same builder as the guy selling you the house, the salesman who works for that builder. They have the exact same model, but in another neighborhood down the street. So yes. I know that's kind of confusing for some listeners, but like if you have lived in a place where like all of a sudden you have this huge growth and this huge population boom, that's just a little background onto that.
Yes. And I just, the banner, if that banner wouldn't have been out, I would have gone further and went to the right church. Instead, they had VBS coming. And, you know, I don't know if it said what the theme was, whatever, but I drove by it a few times. And I was like, my kids have to go to that. They have to go. I mean, it was like they have to go to Yale. Yeah. They have to go to
We're getting into the Ivy Leagues. We got to go to that church.
Yes. Because we had just the summer before, I had served at VBS. Joey was a baby. And this is what's funny. I am trying to serve at VBS, but everyone keeps I don't have my own baby. Someone else keeps him the whole time. But I end up handing out popsicles, holding someone else's baby the entire VBS. I never get to really serve.
That's very on brand for you.
Yes, the babies are just switched out because it's a very, very small church. There is a building, but like we're outside for most of it because the VBS was probably like, if 30 kids is saying a lot. So like even the toddlers are just like, it's just kind of like Come As You Are Thursday nights at its height. So I am seeing this as a mega church, small town style.
Yep.
And I am used to Saddleback in California.
Yep.
So this is perfect for me because I will be able to serve at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to serve at a higher level because I want to be in charge or hold the microphone. I just want to be part of it. I want to be part of what the good people are doing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's so fascinating that like, like when you say like these things, like the way it looked and what drew my attention and where I came from and the type of environment that like I was programmed to think was what I needed. Like, come as you are checked all those boxes, even from the outside looking in, you know, and especially wanting to be like not your mother's country church, right? Like that was the aesthetic that they were going for, and they knowing that like it's so funny to hear that like you coming from actually interacting with Saddleback Church in California to the Saddleback Church in a Box Kit church in the middle of
Yes.
rural northern Colorado, right? Like you're like
It's
like
crazy.
it was designed and marketed to reach you. Yeah.
Yep, that was the other thing that drew me to Come As You Are. But this happens after this VBS, but I just want to say, because Melissa had the same experience, when we are in Oregon, the oil field shuts down because they stop fracking. So where we were becomes a ghost town. And I am from Orange County, and I have no concept of money, and I have no concept of foreclosure. And so Jason keeps telling me, but he doesn't tell me until we are going to be homeless. And then I don't know how to really cope with it. And then, of course, I tell my parents, and my parents' solution is just to send us a giant check to save everything. And Jason's like, no, we can't do that. Thank God we didn't. So then instead, we leave like thieves in the middle of the night. And after this BVS, Jason does go with me to the big summer event. And the same thing, Melissa, the hot dogs being free were like if they were handing out steak and lobster.
Yep.
And to Jason too, and the boys got their faces painted because we had no money. And I will say that Come As You Are, when they did things for you, they did not make you feel poor at the beginning.
Right.
Like the kids, you know, they got tickets and toys, and like I was just blown away because like my kids are never going to Disneyland. We're not even going to be able to take them to Denver to the aquarium. We have no money at all. So this is their like Disneyland.
Yeah.
And at the ages they were, it was for them. So that was huge for us. And that is part of where Jason's like, maybe this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
And he wasn't made to feel bad about himself not being able to go do these things for his kids because no one's expecting you to.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. Like you hit those key factors exactly. Like at first, you're not made to feel bad for needing a handout because it's so normalized in the sense of like, we're doing this, you know, the focus is on because God loves you and all of that. And I like how you were like, at first, you know, because it definitely is that love bombing. It is give, 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 give. And you don't realize the strings that are attached to all that giving that are going to come at you here real quick.
Well, and you get a couple times of we'll give, and then after that it's like, okay, now you have to conform to what we need you to be, and we're not going to just continually give you a handout. Right. You need to conform, and you need to be part of contributing now.
Yeah. And I mean, like, honestly, Jason's like the perfect target too of like that, the motto of Come As You Are being seeking, you know, the unchurched, not people that are going to church and then we want you to come to, you know, our church and switch churches. That wasn't the motto. That wasn't the motivation. It was the people who, for whatever reason, are not attending church. And it's usually people who the church just wants my money. Well, we've got a narrative for that. You know,
and that was him.
Like I've been hurt by the church. Oh, well, we want you here because we're family. Like they had a narrative for every reason why you were currently not attending a church. And those were the people that Come As You Are was going after.
So leading up to this VBS, we do this VBS, and I have since tried to find it. It was put out by Lifeway. So remember, the very first VBS we did was just the summer before. We had never done one as Come As You Are before. We write our own, and it is a logistical nightmare. Like, for someone who's very type A and part of the planning process, like, this broke my brain. So in the year from that VBS to this one, the lady who was running children's ministry at the time was the pastor's daughter-in-law, not Melissa,
not
but the other daughter-in-law. Not you, the other one. And pretty much there was some marriage struggles there between her and her husband. And so we needed to find something for her to do to keep her busy. And so they gave her children's ministry.
Because they had just been separated. So when I met Froggy, they were separated right after Froggy and I got together. They got back together and they were doing the same thing. They were doing the how do we be good? We have to walk and, you know, put on our – and not that it's like – I'm not going to tell anybody else the story, you know, but they were genuinely doing what they needed to do their part.
Yeah.
And they were held at a standard that I was told Jason and I should be following. Because I knew none of their backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is like the favorite son. Like, this is the can do no wrong son. This is the has made every good choice, has excelled at everything. You know, you have to be like this son. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's the baby of the family. So anyway, this daughter-in-law is running children's ministry, and things don't really go super well. Like, she builds the Thursday night. She builds that. I believe we probably wouldn't have continued Thursday night children's ministry had her Thursday night program not been so successful, because she did grow that very, very well. But Sunday morning struggled. And so it just got too much for her. She got really overwhelmed. The last VBS just kind of was like, that was it for her. It was just a lot. So it is decided that she is no longer going to be the lead of children's ministry. So this new lady comes in and she becomes the lead. And so she looks at it, and she had helped at the first VBS, and her organizational skills are very much like mine. And so she looked at it and was like, that was a giant disaster. And so we're not doing our own thing. We're going to use a curriculum. So using a curriculum, of course, we had to use Lifeway, because that is the official book supplier of all things Baptist. We're a non-denominational Baptist church. Let's just throw that out there. So of course we have to do something from Lifeway. So this VBS was called Agency D3. It is by far the coolest VBS curriculum I have ever seen. Like, it was really, it was awesome. It was really cool.
And they never recreated it again. They never could get that spot again.
No. And I know Brandi and I years later tried to even see, like, could we buy, like, even on eBay, buy like a kit and do it again. And it was one and done, but it was amazing. And so it was the Lifeway distribution center is in Denver. So, you know, it was a bit of a drive for us to be able to go and get stuff, but it was close enough that we were able to go get stuff. So the year before, we have, I don't know, like 70 kids. And so we're expecting, like, oh, if we could just double this would be great, right? So we're expecting to double the amount of kids that we get at this VBS. Because, you know, we're living in our little church bubble. We're not paying attention to the outside world. We know that there's new people coming into the church, but we're only seeing the people that are coming into the church. We're paying no attention to the amount of people moving into our community, because, again, these 300 homes have 300 families living in them now. And so we're only looking at who's in our building because to Tom, that's all that matters. And we are the end all be all of this community.
Well, half my neighborhood comes to this.
Yeah. And so,
well, do you feel like it's not so much like I only care about what's happening in my building, but do you feel like for Tom, it was like, he always talked about growth and our community's growing. Do you think that he believed that everybody that moved into those 300 homes, that they all started coming to Come As You Are? Like, that's why his was so narrow? Like,
no doubt.
Like,
oh, no, 100%.
And it's always doubled what reality really is.
Oh, yeah. So as we're planning for this VBS, we're like, we can plan on doubling what we did last time, right? Because our church has doubled since then. So we were planning on like 150 kids max, right? 300 kids show up. And
80 preschoolers.
80 preschoolers. Yep. We put this poor woman, we tell her she's going to have like, I don't know, you're probably going to have like 20 first graders. She's stuck in a room with 60 first graders. Like, it is insane.
A small room.
Like, the fact that woman stuck around for like probably another solid like 6-7 years after that.
She wanted to be good too.
She did it. And yeah, it's the same thing. And so like, I mean, that about broke her. Like, I felt awful for her, that VBS. But, so I am doing registration because remember the last VBS, the woman who was doing registration didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Until like the night before, and I had to stay until the wee hours of the morning, like putting kids into groups and stuff. And I was like, we are not doing that.
Not happening.
But can Come As You Are pay for the software that comes with VBS curriculums that will do all of this for you, the registration? No. Nope.
Why would we pay for software?
Because why would we
have Amanda?
It was cheap too. It wasn't even like it was $100. It was so cheap.
No, it was like $30. Like, we could not do this for years until Brandi and I really got super involved in leading VBS. Yeah. And it was like, it's $30. Like, I'll pay it out of my own pocket. Like, the church doesn't have to pay for it. It doesn't have to come out of a budget. Like, seriously. Like, you would have thought this was like a $1,000 software.
Well, and the same thing with the preschool and kindergarten curriculum. We don't purchase that for another 3 years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that much. It was way cheaper than the big kid stuff.
Yeah. So I am doing all of this on Excel spreadsheet. I have notes. I have registrations that are coming in on our website. So it's just a form that I put on the website. So I am putting these kids in there. We have probably 140 kids pre-register. So we're like, okay, we can plan on, maybe, 20 more kids walking up day of, didn't pre-register, right?
The preschool lady and I were going to split the kids. We were going to do we're running it like you would run a preschool. So we're going to do whole group together and then we're going to split. She's going to take 15. I'm going to take 18.
So you had come in because you volunteered at the second time you came to service. You volunteered.
I sign up the next Sunday. I am told to go to the preschool desk and pick up my packet. So I go pick it up, and on a sticky note, I'm given the preschool lady's phone number. And you were not allowed to face-to-face with this woman on Sundays. Amanda was at the desk so that you could not cross the barrier. And this was important later on.
Organizer extraordinaire and security guard of the preschool department.
Okay, so Amanda has gotten in trouble in women's ministry.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're at this point.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. And so, we have to find something for me to do on Sunday morning. And so I started working in children's ministry doing preschool and, little kid check-in, because when the pastor's daughter-in-law was leading children's ministry, that was like a struggle. And again, we can't buy the software to print the stickers for the kids and actual check-in software that most churches have. We're not spending our money on that.
No, it's a paper system.
And so,
yeah, I forgot. We're writing those names every day.
Yep. And so I get tired because like we had blank stickers, and then like people would have to fill them in every day, and it was becoming a pain in the butt week after week after week. And so like I started making permanent tags for kids. And so if you came more than 3 times, you leveled up and your kid gets a permanent tag. And so I'm doing that, and this process, I get to know the preschool lady, and she's just like the rest of us. She doesn't want to have to interact with a bunch of people on a Sunday morning. She doesn't want to get stuck in the lobby talking to all these old ladies. And, you know, she wants to come in and serve and do what she needs to do. And then she wants to go home. And you're exhausted at the end of service when you have 20 preschoolers in a room. And she did full on preschool with them. Like she had sensory tables and like sang the songs and had puppets. And like this woman was exhausted at the end of the day. She just wanted to get the heck out. And so I became that like, I'm going to be this buffer for you. So they have to deal with me. And again, this just kind of feeds it, because from the outside looking in, if you didn't realize that her and I had talked about that and she liked that buffer, she liked having parents talk to me and hand the kids to me and I put them in the room for her, and she didn't have to do that. And her vibe was, I'm here because I love little kids and I just want to teach them about Jesus.
She wanted to come and teach preschool. She needed an admin, and that's what you were for her, was the preschool admin. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But there was people from the outside looking in that would be like, well, Amanda just walked in there and took all that away from her and just completely took over. And so.
And this woman's quiet and super sweet too.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, which is why if you're trying to get kids into a classroom and you're trying to get to teaching and then all these people want to talk to you, it's hard to be like, hey, I got to go. Like, and have that firm boundary.
Well, and like an example is I would hand Amanda Joey. So we're handing Joey over the counter like he's 6 months old, but he's 3 and gigantic.
And he's screaming and
kicking.
I like peel him off of her.
He still has a freaking bottle. He's throwing it across the lobby like he's a maniac. And there's all these parents, you know, if it wasn't like this, Joey would have taken up the entire service.
Yeah. And so like that was my job, was I will peel the chaos kid off of the mom who just wants to go sit in service and not be touched for an hour. I will peel him off of you and I will be like, it's fine. If he doesn't stop crying in 10 minutes, we'll come get you. It will be okay. It'll be fine. And you know, the parents who are like, this is my precious angel, and this is their very special sippy cup, and this is their whoopee, and, you know, this is all of their special things, and if you're gonna, you know, sit on the floor, here's their little blankie, and, you know, all the things, and I'm like, yep, absolutely, and then I'll just shove it in a basket, and they're gonna go live their best preschool life, and they didn't need their whoopee or all their crap, but I will be the one to look you in the eye as a parent and be like, oh yes, absolutely, we could totally do that for you. And the preschool teacher can just do her thing with the kids, right? And so, yeah, like you and the preschool teacher were told you would have like 30 kids total, and there's like 80 of them. Like it's insane.
And we met only a couple days before to go over everything. We talked on the phone. I told her my background. We had the same background. I knew exactly how she did things. So we're just going to do school.
Yeah.
And we both looked at what the head of children's ministry gave us, and we realized it's the stuff the big kids don't want. So it doesn't work for us. So we're like, okay, we'll just find out. They're doing these stories, these songs, we'll just do our own. And really, they're really coming to play in water, play in sand, make a craft. And that was her and I. That's our vibe anyways. That's what we want to do. So we're going to set up stations, and then we're going to use the 2 rooms to do like the story, and then we're going to come together and the kids are going to rotate. All the helpers are going to help us rotate.
Yep. So you guys basically do your own little mini version of VBS in your little section.
And actually at this point, because her and I do this together for quite a few years. So at this point, I meet with her and another woman who I think was, so we had the preschool and then we had like the 2-year-olds. So I think this woman was the one that did the 2-year-olds on Sunday mornings. So the three of us meet, and I am told I'm going to be like the helper of both of them to help like get it organized, whatever. Check the kids in, and we sit down, and the woman that does the 2-year-olds is like, "Oh no, you're doing this, not me. I'm going to be the helper.
I've done my time.
You're doing this. I already did this." And she goes into her story of how many kids and her daughter, which it's
Froggy's girlfriend. Mom. So yeah, so when people realize that soon to be ex-husband has a girlfriend, and yeah, this is 2014, like this is how well I know this woman, like her mom was helping Brandi with the first VBS that Brandi came into. Oh, what a small world.
Yep. And I become really good friends with this whole family, which we'll get into later. But so when she does that, I'm like, I thrive in chaos. And if they would have told me this 3 months prior, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But because I have like a week and a half, the adrenaline, I can do it.
And this VBS curriculum, because the whole premise is like you're a secret agent, right? And so every kid gets this little secret agent kit, and they have like a little, detective, like magnifying glass, and they have like a little kit where they write down their little detective notes, and they have like a little black light and secret agent pen so they can write secret agent notes and then only see it under the black light. And super cool stuff, right? And so the preschool has
this, I forgot.
Yeah. They have their own little kits, and it's like a preschool level kit. So the preschool teacher orders all these kits for them. Well, there's other stuff that goes with it. And this is textbook Come As You Are. VBS will pay for the kits for every kid. We're going to make sure every kid has a kit, right? However, we're not buying all the other extra crap, right? Well, the preschool teacher is like, "Oh no, these kids need all this stuff." So these kids show up. The older kids get this little kit in a box that's theirs, and they have to keep it there like all week long. It stays at the church for VBS, and they get to take it home at the end of the week. Day one, all those preschoolers go home with like goodie bags, and they got like
every day.
Yeah.
So we are coming off of Jason. We leave Oregon, no jobs, and we come with no jobs. And no money and no plan. Jason, so Colorado at this time is fracking.
Yeah.
There's big money. Jason signs a huge contract that is going to change our lives. $175,000 a year. We cannot believe we've hit the gold mine. And do you know why we've hit it? Because I am serving at VBS. I'm surrendering to God. I am picking up my cross.
God is blessing you.
Yes. The first time in years we have extra money. So we decide we are buying all the swag, all the decorations, all the swag. We each spend $1,500, $3,000 on this.
Yeah.
But it's only enough for the amount of kids that signed up. That's all we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to day one of this thing.
Yeah.
And we have lines Like, we're talking 150 kids and their parents are in these lines and they have not registered. We need not only permission slips, we need emergency contact stuff. Like, the parents aren't staying with the kids, they're dropping them off. So think of anything you have to do with your kids, school, anytime you're leaving your kids somewhere, you know, sports, all of those forms.
And we're accepting kids that don't talk yet.
Exactly. And yeah, it's like, what? There's an emergency. We need to call your mom. What's her name? Mommy. Like,
come as you are, duh.
Yeah, come as you are. Exactly. And so we are not telling anyone no, we're not turning people away. It is mass chaos day one. And we're on the struggle bus. And so, like, we're having to run back and forth to the office and make more copy because again, everything's on freaking paper. And so parents are filling out paper copies of stuff. We're running out of copies of the registration forms. People are running, like, I'm talking sprinting across the parking lot back and forth to the office building in order to make copies, because do you think we can have a copy machine or a printer in the main building? Hell no.
No, there was one, it just didn't work.
Oh, that was years later, because that was
didn't
my
exist
thing.
yet?
We pushed it over, Amanda.
Yeah, we shoved that sucker across the parking lot and as we were doing it, we're like, this is going to fix everything. Because remember how terrible Agency D3 was? No, that was...
Oh, that makes sense.
Well, and here's the other problem. The Sunday school teacher and I have zero admin skills. And it's only us. So that's going, and she does not want to check in her kids. So I become the check-in for everything.
Yeah, so
it's phenomenal.
we have these long lines, right? And so it's me and like 3 ladies are the registration team, because we're expecting like maybe 20 people to show up. And so we're having to like have these kids register. We're having to like put them into groups and make sure the groups are even and, you know, all of this stuff. And we're trying our best. And Tom comes in and like, he decides he's going to help. And he starts just putting kids, he doesn't care what grade they're in. He's just like, oh, you're a new kid. Oh, this.
Or allergies.
Yeah. Or allergies. He's not asking for allergy information. And so, you know, he comes in and he's like, oh, well, like, why does this group have like 40 kids in it and this one has like 25? Like, let's put this kid in this one. Well, because Tom, you just put a 5th grader in a 2nd grade group. Like, you know, so he's not paying attention to any of that. And it's like causing chaos. I have like group leaders coming to me and being like, I literally have a 2nd grader in my 5th grade group or vice versa. Yeah. And, you know, and so I'm like, okay. So finally I go up to Tom and I'm like trying to nicely ask him to like stop. And he is ignoring me and he's doing his Tom like, well, I got this and you guys weren't prepared and what is wrong with you? And
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years I've been doing
it. Yep. And you know, all of this and you guys should have known better and blah, blah, blah and everything. And it finally like I snapped. And for the very first time, I look at him and I was like, you are not being helpful. You are not being helpful. Just walk away from the table. Go find something else to do. Help take kids to groups, like find something else to do, but do not touch the registration anymore. And he had a stack of papers in his hand and I took them out of his hand. And in that moment, like I lost my crap and he like looked at me and I could tell he was so mad at me. But he didn't say anything because again, there's like a gabillion people around, you know, and it's very clear he's the pastor. Like people are calling him Pastor Tom, Pastor Tom. And so he walks away. I definitely paid for that later. I got called in and like absolutely just ripped to shreds. But that was the first time that I lost it with him, and that up until this point, Amanda needs to be in control. Amanda's controlling. All of that was coming from Charlotte. Now, after this experience, that starts coming out of Tom's mouth also. Because it wasn't the fact that he walked in, didn't bother to figure out what was going on, and he was making a chaotic situation more chaos, and he actually was like not helping. He was doing more harm than help. That didn't matter. It was the fact that I was controlling. That was the problem.
Yeah. It's women like you.
And the gaslighting that goes along with that, you internalize that, and everything you do, you second guess yourself.
Yep. So VBS starts. We have all of these new kids. The young guy who him and his wife had taken over youth group when I left, she is helping at VBS. He wanted to help at VBS, but he couldn't help because every single day, and I mean, we're talking, we had lines of people to pre-register their kids or to come and register their kids every day. Yeah. This is a 5-day VBS, and every single day we're having new kids register. Day 5, I think we had like a dozen kids that they just came for one day and their parents came and signed them up.
Yeah. Because it was so much fun. People were going home and then bringing their neighbors back the next day.
Yeah.
And it's free.
It's free. Exactly. We're not charging people for this. And so this guy would have to leave as soon as we would have a head count. I would have a head count of how many new kids we'd have, and he would leave, haul butt to Denver and back. And I mean, he was gone the entire VBS, and he'd come rolling in at the very end of VBS with a handful of those little kits, and he'd have them for all the kids, so that all the kids who showed up that day, by the end of that VBS, they had a new kit in their hand. And this was all day. So I would get him the numbers, he would leave, then I would spend all of VBS. I don't even know what happened at that VBS. Like, I have no idea what happened during the day in that VBS. I would watch beginning worship and check out end worship, because all that time I'm busy trying to make sure that, what if there's an emergency and we just have this stack of papers of kids who just showed up. They're not organized at all. They're not in alphabetical order. How are we, if heaven forbid, some kid like chokes on something or has an allergic reaction to something or breaks their leg, like, we're going to have to sort through, 300 papers to find this kid. Like, they have to be organized in some way.
And the leaders don't have because the leaders should have it in their folder, the emergency stuff, and they don't.
Yep. And the leaders, they don't even have a list of who their kids are. Like, they don't even know. All I know is I'm supposed to have 40 kids. Do I know their names? Do I know what adult is supposed to come and pick them up? Nope. No idea.
So crazy.
And so it was mass chaos. We were not prepared for the flood of people who came in, and it was just chaos the entire week. But that became like the woman leading children's ministry at the time, and me and Brandi became the VBS, Brandi led the little kids, I led the registration, this lady led the whole thing, and we did that for years.
Yeah.
And we finally were like, okay, we're prepared for, and never again was VBS at that level.
No.
Ever again.
No. That one was insane. People are probably like, what was Melissa doing while you guys were experiencing chaos? Melissa was having the time of her life, being a diva. Like, I listen to your stories and I'm like, that's what was going on. Like, I mean, I knew it was crazy, but I did not experience, as the VBS worship leader in charge of worship, we were green rooming it and preparing our hearts to be on stage, to sing and dance and entertain, in the nice, quiet, dark sanctuary.
Well, and I don't know if you guys know this, the other daughter-in-law was put in the tiny 2-year-old room with the kids that show up that can barely walk.
Oh, yeah.
Because we
we
don't have anything saying your kid has to be potty trained. We don't have an age limit, nothing like that. So, I mean, we have parents dropping off their 1-year-old who can toddle around in diapers.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like if I remember correctly, and you gals would know better, I feel like there was a lot of either staff kiddos that needed babysitting, or like the parent had a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, a kindergartner, and like a baby, and they just brought all of them.
Yep.
Yes. Well, and what happened was, and then the community starts bringing a lot of under 2s in by Wednesday, because their 4-year-old and 5-year-old are bringing home all this swag, and their 2-year-old's upset. So now we're taking these kids in midweek. So the daughter-in-law and a woman that I end up, this is how we become friends. They are crammed into this room.
Yeah, with the babies.
I don't speak to the daughter-in-law this much, but it's 100% clear, because it happens to me down the road. She is in this room for punishment.
Yeah, something.
She did not do what she was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So she is in there. She is barely allowed to come out. The other woman is allowed to come out. The little ones that will sit for the story and do some craft, we will do. But they all poop at the same time. There's not enough diapers, because we're not by the nursery. And because the nursery's at the other end, which at this point I don't know why it's down at the other end, because it makes no sense. So we have some pull-ups, and we have like one changing table.
The nursery was at the other end because the lady who ran the nursery, we talked about this in our building a building episode. That lady refused to go down to the other end.
Yeah.
She threw a hissy fit. Yeah. So that's why the nursery.
Yeah, so it's so funny to see Brandi coming in and being like, this doesn't make any sense. What are you people doing?
Yeah, so the woman that I become friends with, she is not a children's ministry person. She does not even really want to serve. Her husband is involved, and they've had a life-changing experience too, where she was the breadwinner. They have their daughter, and something happens, and they decide they have to go to church because they have to save their marriage. And when they start going to church, he lands a job like Jason lands the job. Changes their entire life. His wife now is able to quit, stay home like she wanted, and they have financial security for the first time. This part of the story is never told from stage. But this man will get up on stage for years and years and years and praise how Master Life changed his life. So this is where I meet this woman. She's not happy to be serving. She is especially not happy to be serving in children's ministry. Her son is there as well. And he is also like Joey, but he's not loud. And he's like a sweet little quiet, but he's also very behind in his age too. But he'll sit quietly, whatever, and do whatever. Joey's a maniac trying to like go into the sanctuary. Like he has to be locked in the room with the daughter-in-law, which she does not like this either because he is yelling and trying, like he's a maniac. So, we have this orange fencing that we use in the parking lot.
I was gonna ask, did we have it that year? Yes. Okay, so this was our solution because...
And it's hot, and it's asphalt.
So the very first year, we have a little playground, but it's on the completely opposite side of the building. And so you have to go out the complete other end of the building to get to the playground. And it's like big kid playground equipment. It's made for elementary school kids. So the very first VBS we have, like the little kids... We had the same setup. They were in the lobby and the preschool and, 2-year-old rooms. They were kind of in that little area. And they were having to walk them through the entire building to get out to the other end. And then they'd get out to the playground and you'd have imagine taking like your 2-year-old to like a upper elementary school playground. Like they can't do half the things on there, right? And all they want to do is they want to be outside. And like, honestly, if they could just be outside and have a water table and some sidewalk chalk, they'd be happy. So our solution to this is we would put up this giant like wall tent, like an event tent, like what someone
wedding tent.
Yeah, what someone would get
Yeah,
married
like
under outside
like an
in the
easy
park.
up type thing.
Not breathable.
No, because
no airflow.
We had to have the sides down. So because the kids kept trying, and so we take this tent. At first, we have the sides up, right? And we put like the orange snow fencing, like that orange,
like the orange Home Depot fencing,
type, yeah, net type fencing that comes in a big giant roll of like plastic. So we put that all the way around it and connect it to the door so the kids are contained, because we are in the front parking lot and 50 yards is like a highway.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep these kids contained. Well, kids were like, if we didn't, we had the wall sides up for a while and the kids were escaping because they could see and they just wanted to run. Because again, there's
so
like
Joey is one that's like climbing it.
Yeah, there's a
and
million
like,
of
once
them.
they get on it, it collapses.
Yeah, because it's just a plastic fencing. It's not like we have T-posts drove into the ground. It's connected.
No, because they're on
connected
concrete.
to the sides of of the wall. And so like they're getting out, they're running, and like people are having to chase after them.
I have pictures because this is like the kids are all really little. So Jolynn,
I was gonna say
Johnny,
you have Jolynn and Clayton out there.
And Johnny and all the other kids, because there's a big group of us. They're all at the sand tables and whatever. And Joey's just a maniac. We don't watch him. We just, whatever. Like, we don't, you just are going to do you, dude. Like, since he was 18 months old, he's trying to ride a bike out front. Like, he's a maniac. And so everyone keeps yelling, "Your kid's going over the fence again!"
Yeah. So
that's why he has to get locked down.
These
and
pictures,
he's been out there, so he's dirty pissed.
Yeah. And they're crammed in there, and like we'll find these pictures and we'll put them up on our Patreon for our Patreon supporters, because like there's pictures, I think it's like Jolynn and Joey sitting next to each other, and they're like red faced and just like dripping sweat, and Jolynn's hair's like matted to her head because she's so sweaty. And like,
well, she's trying to tell him, like, Joey, just do this. Joey, come on.
Because we've had to put the sides of the tent down to help keep the kids contained. It wasn't just Joey, it was multiple kids.
No,
that were escaping. But yeah, that stupid orange fence. Like,
but he was like old enough to know, like, because most of it was like really little ones that just didn't know. And they're at that toddler age where they're just walking, so they just want to cruise around.
Yeah. It was that orange fence that went on for years, and that was awful.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Brandi,
that was the bane.
Amanda,
our husbands hated it because our husbands would have to come and set it up.
Yeah.
Then it would cause a huge fight, and it was a whole.
That's where the screaming came from. Well, and that's where, so after the registration disaster, by day 2, we're kind of in the swing of things. We're taking everything home at night. Amanda says, here, because I'm overwhelmed. I have no idea how to organize this, and I am just going to pile it in piles, and it'll be fine. And so she's like, well, here, this is what I'm doing, do this. And so when she tells me A, B, and C, I can do it. So I take it home, organize, get my name tags organized. And day 2, we're like rocking and rolling. It's going smooth. There's more kids coming in, but it's not as overwhelming because we have somewhat. For me, it's easy because all these kids are in one place. For the other side, it's still a mess because they're all over the building. So we start running pretty smoothly, and we go in for worship, and then we come out, we do our story, like we're found our groove. We have we were having a problem with the orange fence. So the solution, and I don't know who made this solution because I was not told until 8:45, all of a sudden, all these youth boys come to me. And Melissa, I don't know if your boys were part of this. I assume, because I can't even really, because, you know, I'm so new at this point, I don't know who's who. But the youth boys always did like the games. And so when the big kids are in the sanctuary, whatever, the youth boys are sent over to help get the little kids like sidetracked from the fencing, whatever. But I'm not told this. They just show up and are like, we're here to help you. And I mean, they were a great help, but it was just like, that is just because it just added another layer of chaos, because now I have 8 youth boys wanting to help, and, you know, we have water and squirt guns and whatever. So
now they're going to play. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's funny.
So, but as this is going on, they help out. And I think because games rotations, like they don't need all of them. So they like some of them leave, go to games, come back, whatever. And we hit our groove with that too. And so the big kids are still in the sanctuary. We go in to sing. We come out while you guys do the story in there. We sit down in the lobby doing the story. And then they get up, and I have a lot of helpers at this point. So the kids are going to their preschool rotations, and Tom comes over. He has no idea who I am, doesn't even really know I attend, because we've had no contact. I have only been up to the office once. And I've only talked to people on the phone, which I've only talked to the director of children's and then another woman who I wasn't sure what she was, whatever, but she told me that my kids need to go to Day Springs and I need to go to mom's group. And she gave me my whole agenda of everything I had to do. Master life, all of it. So he comes over and he says, wow, it looks like you've done this before. You know, this is looking good. Good job. You know, praise, which in my experience, you don't get that a lot from him. And I don't know this at this point. And this is one of the only times I will receive this.
Well, and I want to mention, because you said the daughter-in-law was there. So there something happened. We don't know what, but something happened that she got in trouble with Tom and Charlotte. Then you have one of your helpers was actually the lady who dropped the ball on the registration the year before.
Yes.
And she's a very opinionated older lady. And so her and Tom would butt heads on a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And so just in our experience, this is one of those things that, like, seeing it now and looking back, you're like, was he really giving you a compliment? Did he really think that you were doing a good job? Or was he saying that so the other people that were in trouble heard you were doing a good job and then he ignored them?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and that's the other thing is there's also women helping that are my peers who don't know who I am. We've been thrown in this situation together, and now I am being lifted up, and they've been doing hard work a lot. They've done a lot of things, and they're not acknowledged. So there's this resentment that I don't know about.
By the end of the week, like, we've made the best of it. We find, like, by day 3, we have a actually working system of, like, okay, we're anticipating now a crap ton of kids coming every single day. So, like, we're prepared. We're ready now. We have a system. I give, the dude the numbers. He leaves for Denver. I go and I do my, my admin stuff. We get everyone everything by the end of the day. We all just collectively, like, hold our breath and cross our fingers and pray that no new kid that walked in the door that day gets hurt because we're not going to be able to find their information. And so it is a disaster. But by the end of it, we're like, okay, this is okay. So we invite all the parents back at the end of the week for this big, like, we're going to have a hot dog thing. Like, we're going to do
barbecue.
We're going to present. Yep. We're going to present the gospel to the parents. Everyone comes in and sits in the sanctuary. We play a couple of the worship songs. The kids get to do the actions, and we're going to present the gospel to the parents because, we're here to save everyone. We are the only ones doing it right. And we are going to save the world. And we have parents so mad that, well, where are the bags for the big kids? Because we have told the big kids, all of your stuff stays here and you get to go home with it at the end of the week. But the little kids have been taking stuff home every day. And so where are the bags for the big kids? Because their kids have like their crafts and they have like their little kit with, their little detective kit. Whereas the little kids are going home with like, like the
VBS drawstring bag.
Yeah, like the party favor bags every single day that like your kid gets when they go to a birthday party. They're going home with that stuff every day. So the parents were thinking like, oh, they're just keeping the big kids stuff. They have all this stuff. They're just going to give it to them at the end of the week. And so parents are dirty mad. And so this is why moving forward, when we go into other VBSs, we're like, you can't just do it for your little group because it causes a giant problem. And then that also feeds into the, Amanda and Brandi are controlling and they just like to make up rules. Well, you didn't get screamed at by 150 parents that.
Right. Because they're picking up their big kids first because the preschool line is super long because it takes longer to check them out. So they're getting their big kid, then they're coming to get their little kid, and I give them a bag, and it's the big bag we're giving them the last day. And the moms are saying, well, I need 2 more bags. And I'm like, well, this is the preschool bag. Well, they didn't give me the bags in the sanctuary, so just give me 2 of those bags. It'll be fine.
Like, there were no bags in the sanctuary.
I'm like, oh, gosh. I'm like, well, and so I know how to deal with parents because I have a teaching background. So I, spin it, whatever. Some of them accept it, and some of them do not.
Yeah.
And the ones that do not know that I was the one that did registration. So I'm really the only face aside from like their kids group leader that they recognize. So I'm the one who gets screamed at by all these parents.
And let's be honest. You are running this VBS. You and I are doing the majority of the work.
Brandi's been there for like 5 days.
I am black and white. This is where my first black and white appears. Because everyone prays before VBS starts. We like go in the sanctuary, whatever. And the person leading this does like a little speech every day. So the first time I'm like, whatever, it's so chaotic that I don't know what's going on. Well, now the 3 of us are working very close together. She holds the microphone and Amanda and I do all the work, all the manual labor.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that because I am a manual labor person. I need a task. I don't want to talk. I don't want the microphone. Give me a task. Give me chaos and I will thrive. So by day 3, Amanda and I have been working a lot together because we're working before it starts. We don't see each other during, but then after we're cleaning up. Our kids are helping clean up. One of us is piling them in one of our vehicles and going and getting McDonald's for them and then coming back. We're making them lay down in the preschool room and hopefully Joey and Jolene will go to sleep. And we're there for almost the whole entire day. And then we have to go home and pretend like we haven't been at the church all day to our husbands and make dinner, do all those things. And we're trying to be super good. So there's a lot of things we have to do. You know, like the kids have to have a bath. You have to do all the things.
You just did all the VBS chores. Now you got your home chores that got to be done. Yeah.
Yes. And make dinner. And dinner, cooking meals is a very big struggle for me. And so this is where we start to realize we can rely on each other. We don't really know this at this point, but we're starting to be like, okay, so you go get McDonald's this day. And then we're able to also be honest. She buys my kids McDonald's. And the next day I'm like, I would love to do this, but I can't. But we can go to my house and we can do peanut butter and jelly, whatever. And she's like, that's fantastic. Let's do that. I don't have to do anything. Fantastic. And I don't feel bad about it. She doesn't make me feel bad about it. And this is also not because we don't have money at this point in time, but this is because of what is being set up for how our household is going to run now that we are ultra churched. Because I don't always have access to the finances as a means of control.
Because your husband became the man, and so he became the man.
And sometimes I don't have a check card.
Yeah.
So, and I think by the end of this, by like Thursday, I think you are like, just come over and we'll all do dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to ease Jason in, whatever. And like, he'll do it at your house, but he won't do anything else at this point. And he's surprised because he meets your husband, you know, and he's like, oh, he had beer. So, all right, we're cool. But anyways, I don't want to get off on all that yet. But, this woman, by day 3, we're all working together beforehand, getting to the church very, very early, like at 6:45 in the morning. And it doesn't start till 9. And so we're like basically having like the real meeting before the meeting. And so she's asking Amanda all these questions. Well, what do I do for this? What do I do for this? Because logistic-wise of VBS, it is difficult to move these kids around the building, to how we get them out of the sanctuary, into the sanctuary. Like, it is a lot. And the first day it's awful. The second day it's a little better, but we're learning as we go, and even how we're checking out preschool and everything. So everything that doesn't work, we iron out. But Amanda is the one with the solutions. And Amanda is the one saying, this is how we have to address this. This is how we have to address this, and whatever. So from day 1, I have a big part in the behind the scenes that no one realizes. And Amanda is doing all of the legwork, the planning, the execution. Day 3, she gets up on the stage and she repeats verbatim what Amanda said. Which, that's fine. My problem becomes when she never gives Amanda credit. And if you know me, this is why at every meeting I ever attended from this point on, anything that Amanda does for me, I tell everyone to make sure Amanda's getting credit for it.
So the lady that was in charge of VBS that year, like she was the children's ministry director, she was ahead of it all. She's getting up on stage every morning, she's giving directions, and she is a very successful woman who can come up with things and is very authoritative in her presence. And then you guys have a meeting one of the mornings, and she gets up and is like, this is what we've come up with. This is what we're going to do. And you're like, wait a minute, you didn't. And she makes it sound like it's her because she's in charge. But really, it was in the meeting, and it was Amanda who came up with all of it. That's what happened? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Okay. I was like,
Yes, because she does not execute anything.
right.
She doesn't
She's just
plan
the person with the
anything.
microphone. Yeah.
Yes. So when we get way down the road to the VBS where you are the
Yeah.
MC, it's you were given the
Yeah.
information. We gave you very little information because you're very good at what you do, but she was given a script,
Right.
basically.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And then all the credit for what she
Yeah.
does and her leadership
Right.
skills. And all of this will play in
Yeah, no, that
later.
makes total sense. But being like a bystander to all of that, I just wanted to make sure I got that clear, because it did come off like, you know, like she was in charge and she was the one making all the decisions, and she was the one, you know, coming up with all this stuff. And there was no mention of like, you know, behind the scenes team or like, this is what we're doing or any of that. So that's just very interesting. But I have a question, because Amanda had mentioned that when you showed up, she was told, and I think a lot of people were under the impression that you and another lady had come together as friends. And so we've talked about the chaos. We've talked about like it smoothed out. Honestly, I feel like it went off without a hitch. I know behind the scenes, the pillars were all falling, but from the outside looking in, it really went off without a hitch. What happened with this lady that like you came in with that everybody thought you were like best friends with her?
Well, so there's love bombing going on too in preschool. So it's me, the preschool lady, and the 2-year-old lady. She's now just a helper, and all of her friends now have migrated over to be helpers in preschool too.
You basically have every grandma in the church are coming because they just want to sit while you're telling the story and hold little kids on their lap like a grandma.
Yeah, and then when we go outside where it's hot, they stay inside and sit at the craft table and chat. And I mean, they do bring us the snack and whatever, but like, I mean, they're living their
So
best
you've
life.
got like grandmas and youth
Tell
boys
me, like,
all being sent to you to babysit.
yeah, the youth boys are helping me, and they are. I mean, they help me the whole time.
Right, and of course these grandmas
and they were amazing. I mean, they were great. They would do anything I asked. They were super respectful. Yeah. The little kids loved them. And down the road, that's why I always wanted the youth to help with kindergarten and preschool, because the kids loved it.
And then you got the grandmas.
And they sat and did Play-Doh with them. And it was great. And especially for it to be boys, because it's always usually girls. And even the little girls, like, you know, they're excited because the boys are picking them up and, you know, not picking them up like they're babies, but like we'd be like, put them down. You're on the asphalt. You cannot like do
fling them around.
Fling them around, yeah. But the kids loved it. And so there's love bombing going on because they're telling me, it's your turn. It's your turn to do this. And I want
right, and you're so good at it, and thank you for. And they're probably very appreciative too, because they just want to sit in the chair, hold a kid, not have to go outside. And they're like, "Man, this lady has got it," because you're doing it. You're doing all the things. You've stepped up into this leadership role, so they don't have to. So they're like telling you how amazing you are. Yeah.
Well, and then I believe this is just a fluke. The women that I'm surrounded with are more like me in personality. They have backgrounds. They are flippant. They are sarcastic. They are not keeping it sweet.
Right. Well, I know you say like it's a.
I love
right.
Them.
I know you say it's like a fluke, but when you look at the demographic of Come As You Are at that time, when you know that high control religious organizations prey upon people who come from dysregulated situations, most of the people that attend Come As You Are dysregulated in some way, shape, or form. They have a past. They have a story. Everybody's got, that's why the three of us can all sit here and say we were trying to be good. And then we know other people they were going to church too because they thought that's what you had to do to be good. It's because we were the prime target. And then you have the different people would sift out into the less dysfunctional people who had probably more secretive dysfunction, ended up being in more leadership roles because their dysfunction didn't look crazy like our dysfunction. And so they're like covert. We're like, yeah, we're a mess. And they're like, yeah, we're going to lead you. So, I mean, yes, was it a fluke? But no, just like, and especially,
Well, and I mean, because later on, it's not a fluke because I become part of anything that happens
yeah,
in the church. Whoever you are placed with,
was definitely on purpose. Yeah.
I have a yellow pad of paper why you're
Oh,
placed
yeah.
where you are, no matter what the
Yeah.
event is, what the Bible study
Yeah.
is, anything happening in that church. You are there because of something.
But VBS is
but at this point, I don't believe
no, because VBS
happening.
is a great opportunity for the people who attend. Because what people need to understand is like, and I'm not trying to be like levels, but it is like a multi-level marketing, environment. But you have people that like they attend the church, but they're not in the inner circle. But when something like big comes up, like a VBS or this big park event or something that is church wide, this is how they get their volunteer points. They showed up, but they're not in the inner circle. And so they're all going to congregate together. You happen to be in an area where one of their playmates was, so they all congregate over there.
Yep. And they start mixing up the Kool-Aid. So we meet the first day. She's younger than me. Everyone's younger than me. I had my kids late, so I am most of the time at least 15 years older than everyone. But nobody realizes this because they're associating me with SBC women who have babies in their 20s. I was 35. I was 38 when I had Joey. So I come and I am in my 40s. But no one knows this and it's not really talked about. And it's not a thing for me yet at this point because I come from California where people have kids later. So I don't realize how odd this is going to be later on. And then it's almost like hushed. So it doesn't even really come up. And these women are just assuming, some of them I'm their granddaughter's age, but in reality, I'm their daughter's age. And I do become friends with these women because some stuff comes up and some things are shared. And when they realize my background and then a lot of their background. And so later on.
Well, and you can bond over the Grateful Dead because they were dead.
Right.
They were legit deadheads because they're all boomers. And you're like, oh, I followed them in college.
Right. Well, and here's the other part of it is their daughters that can't get their crap together are my age.
Mm-hmm.
But their daughters' kids are not in the preschool and whatever. They're in youth, but my kids are in the preschool, but I'm the same age as their daughters. And when this becomes a thing later on, because later on I am seen as good and I become part of these families' lives to come in and help. So anyways, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. These are my people. The other lady is at the first 2 days, cause she's not part of the chaos. Cause while I'm dealing with the chaos, she's like, let's go over here and play and whatever. She's living her best life. She's following her daughter around basically.
She just showed up to help at VBS. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she thinks it's great, whatever. But then as it goes on and everyone's getting more comfortable and starting to show their true colors, she's not 100% in because where we live and most of the people that are really serving at Come As You Are live in the older part of town.
The main part of town. There was
the main town. Yeah.
It was new neighborhoods, but it was the main town. But then you have up on the hill, it's Snob Hill.
Here, so let's put it this way. Well, let's put it this way. So I live in a neighborhood that used to be, this was where if you had money and if you wanted to be, I lived in the snobby neighborhood where I currently live now was at one point the snobby neighborhood. Then they built a neighborhood further west and that became the snobby neighborhood. And you ended up living in that neighborhood right before you moved, Brandi. And that was the snobby neighborhood. Then the town built the Up on the Hill neighborhood. And all the people that wanted to be, they started in my neighborhood, and then they were like, oh, this isn't Snobville anymore. We have to go to this other neighborhood. Then they all up and moved to the On the Hill neighborhood. And now,
Right.
and now
where
they've
my
all
house
moved to
was, the
another
up on the hill
neighborhood.
looked down on us. Like, even though I had a
Yeah.
new house, it was on the
Yeah.
bottom, you know, so it's not, I mean, it wasn't not desirable, but I mean, it wasn't in the
Right.
hierarchy.
Yeah.
I
So
just need to say real fast, Tom and Charlotte live on Snobville. I just want to throw that out there.
So she's coming from that. And of course, because of the ages of our kids, whatever, we're talking about the schools, whatever, the school that our kids will go to, I mean, the grandmas and even some of the great grandmas in the building attended that elementary school. So it's an old school.
Yeah, it was built in like the 30s.
Yeah. And so up on Snob Hill, there's a brand new school. And so this is when talk starts happening of, you don't want your kid to go to the school at the bottom of the hill. You want your kid to go to the school at the top of the hill. And for a second I get, because coming from California and zip code.
Yeah, you understand zip code.
Yeah, it's very, very important. And so I get like real paranoid. And what's funny is I live closer to the school on the hill, but because where we are, we're not zoned for that. We go to the other school that's further. And so I get a little sucked into it for a minute, but then I'm like, okay, come on. There's like 10,000 people in this town. We don't have to worry about what we worry about in California. So whatever. So, but this woman, you know, and I can't even remember what her husband does for a living, but they're a higher demographic than most of the people that come as you are. And she's young. She's probably like 30. And so she's not really digging what I'm digging of these people of like, you know, they're rough, but they're trying to be good. She doesn't need that. She's always been good.
Yeah.
And
you're drinking the Kool-Aid and she's not drinking.
And she's like, why are you spraying this liquid at me?
Yeah, and I'm handing her the cups and she's pretending to take a drink and she says
I'll just throw it over.
So that week we do go to mom's group, which I'm like, how did we even do that? That's exhausting, but we did. And she comes and it's a mixture of everyone serving in different places at VBS. And we all haven't really seen each other. I mean, the people that have been there know each other and whatever, but there's a lot of newer people or people that have just come to the church. So this is the first time we're like all hanging out together. And it's fine, you know, it's not a whole bunch of talking, whatever, because like the kids are all very young and whatever. Well, she never comes back after that. And then we finished VBS. I don't even think she comes to the hot dog event. And then I don't hear from her again. But then the next year she does sign up again and comes back and serves again.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me, like, to think about the fact that, like, so we put on this VBS, right? And it's like not good enough that we just have kids and then we share the gospel with children. Come as you are has to have, you know, we're better than that motive, which is now we have to put on a VBS night, you know, for the parents because they sent their kids all week. We've saved their kids. Now we have to save them. And we have this like, you know, barbecue.
And it's so crazy.
It's so crazy. Even to say it now, like, I mean, like, to understand that, like, in the moment, it's like, yeah, why would we not want to help the entire family? Like, I mean, you can see where you can get sucked into this stuff. But then now to sit there and be like, seriously, why is VBS just not okay? Why is that just not good enough? Why do we then have to be different because we're the only ones who have it right, that we now have to have VBS night for parents? Half of these parents were dropping their kids off without signing them in them. They're like, here, take my kids babysit for a week, right? Like, they don't want to come and be in VBS.
The real intent was to serve more food.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had to go around and mingle and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the goal was, I mean, I was in meetings, like, because we had to put on a service. We had a service before we went and had the food. Before you get the food, you had to come and listen to your kid and the songs that they learn and participate with them. So we had a performance like you would in school, like where your kid does their like 5th grade concert. We had to have the VBS concert. But the goal was we're going to bring these parents in and we're going to throw church at them. And then we'll give them food as a reward for sitting through that, all for the sake of like trying to bring them into the fold.
Remember.
Yeah. And the other thing that just totally like blows my mind about this is just the initial question when we start this podcast is, what is it about us that made us so susceptible to staying? And, you know, like Amanda being so young and her story, and then yours and my story is like so similar, but we were in like day one, you know, and like the lady that served with you that everybody thought was your best friend who ended up, you're like, I didn't even know this lady. Like, what is it that she was like, no, this is weird. Like, it doesn't work for me. And she never came back. Like, it boggles my mind that we watched that.
I think it's trauma, self-confidence, and the low self-esteem of not feeling like you are good enough. And remember, we would always be like, you have a Jesus-shaped hole. You're trying to fill that. And it's that you really are trying to fill that, but we weren't really trying to fill it with Jesus.
No, exactly.
Honest. We were trying to fill it with, if I am just good enough, this is going to change all the things wrong in my life.
Yeah.
Because we did not have any tools to fix anything that really needed to be fixed.
Burning Butterflies is a listener-supported podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon.
Follow the link in our show notes to learn how you can become a Patreon supporter too. Supporters get exclusive access to bonus content each month, including outtakes, cut content, and supporter-only episodes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating on your listening platform.
Burning Butterflies is a production of Asha Media. Thank you for listening.